December 2019. Cities were glowing with holiday lights, and the air was filled with the scent of mulled wine and roasted chestnuts. People were rushing through shops, laughing at Christmas markets, and planning New Year's Eve celebrations. None of us knew what was coming. From distant Wuhan came news of a new disease. The media portrayed it as a distant problem, something that wouldn't reach us. We had experienced past epidemics that had burned out before they could touch us, and so we continued living as if nothing was happening. We worked, celebrated, hugged. No one suspected that soon every touch would become a risk, every cough a threat. No one realized that we, too, would be affected. January 2020. Everything changed. Suddenly, the virus was everywhere. Hospitals hastily formed infectious wards with the few resources they had. We all feared when the first patient would arrive at the emergency room. But it wasn't just one patient. Waves of people with the same symptoms flooded in. Shortness of breath, high fever, pain all over their bodies. Equipment was scarce. We divided rooms, prepared medicines, oxygen tanks, ventilators, and protective suits. When we put on the hazmat suits, I wore light tracksuits and a cotton t-shirt underneath. But as soon as I suited up, sweat began to pour down my body. The visor fogged up immediately. Droplets of sweat slid down the plastic, and breathing became difficult. Patient care became 3 times harder. Every movement was strenuous. With every physical task, I found myself gasping for air. We were under those suits for 4 hours, but often even longer. When we finally got out, we had to disinfect, take off the suits, and stand outside in the cold January wind, soaked and exhausted. Shifts sped up. There were no days off. When we were short-staffed due to illness or colleagues' exhaustion, we worked 24-hour shifts. When I lay down in bed, I didn't know if I had just come home from work or if I was getting ready to go back. Many people couldn't see their loved ones. When someone passed away, families were not allowed to hold funerals. Losses piled up in silence, and grief remained hidden behind closed doors. Spring and summer arrived. It was as if everything stopped. The number of patients decreased, and we could finally get some rest. At that moment, looking at the empty beds, I wondered, is this the end? Have we won? But the question that troubled me the most was, will the world change after all this? Will we learn to appreciate the little things, hugs, the freedom to breathe, a simple coffee with friends? The pandemic stripped us to our core. It showed us how fragile we are. Our daily lives, our plans, our relationships, all of it could disappear in an instant. The virus taught us how thin the walls of security we had built truly were. But within that fragility lay strength. We saw people breaking down, but also those who, despite everything, continued to move forward. Nurses who, after exhausting shifts, stayed with patients, holding their hands when no one else could. Ambulance drivers who worked nonstop. Cleaners who disinfected hallways, seeking no recognition. This is a story about the quiet heroes, those who did not stand on stage, but whose deeds held the world together. Fragility became our strength, and strength manifested in love, empathy, and unity. In the end, perhaps the greatest lesson of the pandemic is that heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear white coats. Sometimes they simply hold a hand in silence.